Okay, in this video, I want to have a quick look at some of the other font properties. We've already seen font size, and using font size, we can change the size of the font using either absolute or relative measurements. But I'll just repeat here that you are better off using relative measurements for most of your CSS when it comes to sizing things, because you don't know what size screen somebody is using. And if you use a font size that is absolute, then it might look normal on a desktop, but it might be massive on a mobile screen. So by using a relative unit instead, you can make sure that that font size basically adjusts to the size of the screen that the person is viewing it on. So in this example, I've got a font size of 1.5 EM, and the EM unit is relative to the size of the font. And in fact, I didn't mention this before, but it gets its name from a capital M. So you pronounce this M, because it's the size of the capital M for the font. And I've got it set at 1.5, so it's 50% bigger, or depending on how you look at it, it's 150% of the size of the standard font. But let's have a look at a couple of other properties of fonts, and we can find them just by typing in font, and then we get a list of the other properties. And we've got font feature setting, which we're not going to look at, font family we've already looked at, font style, font size, then font style, font variant, and font weight. So let's look at font weight first. And font weight defines how thick the line is that draws the characters. So we've got normal, and if we click on bold, you can see the text becomes bold. But we have different options here. We've got bold, bolder, lighter. We can make the font lighter. Don't actually see too much difference there, but that's what it's for. And then we've got numbers from 100 all the way up to 900, where 100 is the lightest, and then gradually moving up, 500 is a bit darker, and finally 900 is the bold. So that's font weight. And let's look at the next one. Font style. Now, font style, we've basically got three options here: italic, oblique, and normal. Now, italic and oblique are very, very similar. See, that's italic and oblique, and the other option is normal. Okay, let's delete the font style, and we'll have a look at font variant. Now, font variant has three options. You can either have inherit, normal, or small caps. But if you're going to define a font variant, perhaps the only option you're going to choose is small caps. And what this does is it turns the small letters into small caps. Let's have a look. Now you can see all the small letters have been turned into capital letters, but smaller ones than the capitals. Now, there's a few other things we can do with text and fonts. We've already seen the line height in action, which is this line here, but we can also space out the letters of the words with letter spacing. And we've got here an option to put in a pixel value. The default in LiveWeave is 5, but you can change that to anything you want. And you can watch the spacing between the letters spread out a little bit more. And if you don't want the letters to be spaced out, but you want the words to be spaced out a little bit, we've got word spacing. And you see we've got some default values here. So we've got, let's try 10 pixels. And you can see the words are spaced out a little bit more. Let's try -5 pixels. And negative values are valid here. You can see now the words are all running together. Let's try 1 EM. It's a lot of spacing, so let's try 0.2 EM. And you can see you can play around with it using the absolute or relative measurements. Okay, let's delete those, and we'll just have a quick look at a couple of other things. You can do an awful lot with text, and we're not going to cover everything here, but let's look at text align. And with this one, we've got several values. We've got center. We can see the lines are now centered. the text is centered on the line. Let me bring this over here a little bit. Or we could have right align. And now all the text is aligned to the right. More commonly, left align. Or one that looks nice is justify, where the lines have straight borders down the left and the right, and the words are justified between there and spaced, so we get those straight borders. And just to finish this section, I want to show you one more, because this next one is important when it comes to hyperlinks on your website, and that is text decoration. One of the values you can have is underline, and traditionally links on a website were underlined, and so this CSS would basically define, it would be used with a hyperlink selector to specify text decoration underline for the hyperlink. In fact, let's just do that, and I can show you quickly rather than try to explain it. What I'll do is I'll say, right, A is a selector for a hyperlink. I'm going to say text decoration underline. Okay, now all I need to do is to put in hyperlink in here. And we'll put in URL, and we'll put in some text. This is a link. Now you see the link is underlined. Now, the underlining is the default of a lot of templates. So you might have this in your web page, and you might say, well, I actually don't want the text underlined on a hyperlink. So what you could do is say text decoration none. And you see now the link has lost the underline. And while we're here, we've already looked at colors. So let's make the hyperlink blue. And there you can see we've now changed the color of the hyperlink. So those are the font properties and text properties that we can play around with to modify the way the fonts look on the web page.